And we're going to get started. For the sake of people that will be watching later, you are always welcome to ask a question. Just unmute yourself to ask the question. And when you're done speaking, please mute yourself back again. So any background noise doesn't kind of come into the final recording for those that are having to work today instead of play with us. So this is what we're doing. We're doing this cute little bag, and it is cute. And I'm going to have some tips and stuff for you along the way. My first tip is have your iron as close to your sewing machine as you can. So this is what I did here this morning, is I actually moved the ironing pad right next to my my machine. So because you're going to be pressing a lot. And that seems to be what takes the most amount of time, is you have to take the hoop off the machine to press. Also, it's always good to have this handy. Because it kind of gives you a roadmap of what colors you're using in case you forget. I have all of my fabrics labeled as fabric 1, fabric 2, fabric 3, all the way to 5. Here's all my cut pieces, because that way I can't get off track. So, and one of the comments that I made in the supply list was that there is some show through with the white fabric when you put it up against that seam, when you put it up against one of the dark fabrics. So it's optional if you want to use some SF 101 on those white pieces. I will tell you, however, that this one is not an easy one to turn. If you have extra bulk in there, if you have extra, SF 101, stuff like that in there, it's going to be even worse to turn. So as we go along, I'm going to offer a little bit of a solution here. And part of that is to trim a little bit as I go along so that my seams aren't the full 1/4 inch. So I usually take one piece of fabric down a little bit so that they're a little bit uneven, and it kind of distributes the weight a little bit. It'll make it a little bit easier to turn later. So I'll show you as I'm doing that. And then just have fun with it, because it really is a fun bag. We're definitely doing the front and the back and the construction of the bag. If you are planning on making the strap, we may get to that in class today. We may not. But if you want to add a strap, I will be stopping and showing you how to take some fabric and make, for your D-rings, because we do have to put those on before we close your bag up. So I will cover that. And then, so that's about it. All of the prep work should be done, other than if you did your strap ahead of time, good for you. If you didn't, don't worry about it, because it's in the recording. And I actually gave you a couple of my bag making tips on how to get a nice top stitch on the side of a strap, and actually how I fold it so that you don't end up with the shift where the bottom tends to want to scoot out from underneath the top and kind of make it look kind of wonky. So we'll be starting, if you're following on the directions, we'll be starting on page 8, and it's part 3. We're doing the 5x7 bag today. You'll also need all the pieces that came in your kit. So in addition to your fabric, you'll need your 2 pieces of mesh stabilizer, your 2 pieces of batting. I found the 1/8 inch double-sided tape to be handy. I install all my zippers with double-sided tape, just a little bit. And then you'll never have a crooked zipper again, because it's kind of stuck down there while you're stitching. With pins, I find if I pin it, it actually shifts a little when I'm sewing. So I use the double-sided tape. This is a clapper. This is a clapper that fits in your hoop. So I'll be using this as I go along. Sorry. Mainly because it flattens out my seams more than just the iron will. So if I press it, it's going to be nice. If I press it on a wool mat and I put the clapper on top of it, it's going to be really flat. And really flat means it's going to be easier to turn later. So I'm doing a lot of preemptive work ahead of time. That's really doesn't take me any longer to do. Just a matter of knowing what to do with it. I recommended this point turner for when we turn the bag rather than a traditional point turner, because I find that a lot of times if I have a project that has a lot of bulk in the corners, and this one does, because you have some batting underneath there, you have your stabilizer underneath there, and then you have that on both sides. So having a traditional one tends to make us want to push a little bit too hard, and then we end up with a hole in the corner. Whereas this one from OESD kind of makes that impossible because it's got a ball point, a ball on the tip of it, so we can actually get in there and press or squish and push and whatever terminology you want to make with it. I have two different types of scissors. I have a double curve that I'll be trimming when I, before I press, after I press, and getting some of the bulk out. And then I have these guys. So these guys, you might think, what would I ever use those for? These have a very distinct job. It's to be really sharp at the point. So if you ever need to cut in or trim into something where you need to be pointy at the point, it needs to cut all the way to the end. We know some of our scissors don't do that. We try to cut to the end and the end buckles over. These don't do that. These are pointy all the way to the end. So I always have some of these handy in case I need to get closer in. And other than that, I just think I have thread, and your choice is up to you. If you want to use embroidery thread, by all means, you're free to do that. I'm going to be using this one. I'm going to wind a bobbin and put it in both, not because necessarily I would have to, but only because it just is such nice thread to sew with, and it matches my fabric. So that's what I'm going to do. Any questions so far? I'm so glad everyone's here. It's always fun to stitch with you. All right, I'm going to switch. First of all, I'm going to hoop my stabilizer. We're going to work on the back section first. So we're starting with part 3, step 1. And I'm skipping a step right now with the with loading the mesh stabilizer, because I'm here now. I'm going to load my stabilizer, and then I'll load my design when I get over to my machine. And I'll also be giving you some newbie tips as we go along as well, because I never know where anybody's at in their embroidery journey. So I always like to cover the newbie tips as well. When you're working with stabilizer, if you want to smooth it out, don't pull it this way. If you pull it that way, you're going to pull the inside hoop out. Grab the sides and pull it towards the center. That's how you can pull out all that slack. The same on the top and bottom. Grab it, pull it towards the center. That'll smooth out all that slack, and then finger tighten your hoop. One of the things I noticed a couple months ago is we had a run of people that were bringing hoops in where this part of the hoop right here was cracked. And it was because they were using a screwdriver to tighten this. So let me explain what happens sometimes when you over tighten a hoop, besides just having that part crack. When you over tighten a hoop, you won't notice it so much on a smaller hoop. As you start to get in like your 8x12s, your 9.5 by 14s, your definitely your Luminaire Solaris large hoops, the 10 5/8 by 16. The tighter you tight it with a screwdriver, it begins to bow at the sides. So that's not helping getting it tight. What it is doing is setting it up for popping out of the hoop, because you've got it so tight that the inside is trying to pop out. You're bowing it. So I always feel like finger tightening is the best. If you have a lack of strength in your fingers, then maybe give it a little twist with your screwdriver, but don't crank it down, because it's going to lead to problems later. And then also the Brother Baby lock hoops will have little arrows at the top of the back hoop and the top of the front of the hoop. So you always know if you're going in the right way, you're putting the hoop in the correct way. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera so I can switch around. Let me see what's in the chat box here. Thank you. It is pretty, isn't it? I'm just like totally hooked on variegated threads right now. All right, we're moving. We're making some tracks. So I'm going to go ahead and wind a bobbin because I can on this. And then while I'm doing that, I'll just put the design on my screen. We grab a empty bobbin here. Oh, good. There's one. All right, ooh, that's not even a brother. That's not a class 15 bobbin. I don't know where that one goes. Ah, this one is though. Did you get Patrick to answer your question? I was just saying hi. Oh, that's so great. Oh, I know that up there where they live. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Anyway. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get my design up on my screen. So we're starting with the back. I'm on a Luminaire today, but if you're on a Solaris or any other brother machine, all the techniques will be the same. If you're on another brand of machine, we're glad you're here, but I can't help you with it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and retrieve my design. So on your, you got two sizes on your dealer digital. One was a 5x7 and the other was for like a 6x10 hoop, I think. Your kit is cut for the 5x7 hoop. So that's the design we're going to go get. And then we're starting with the back. We're making our back quilting piece. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and I'm going to select set. All right. So I always like to do this one because everybody kind of forgets this. You don't have a top or a bottom to your bobbin. When you put it on top of your bobbin winder, twist till you hear the click. So what that does is it clicks the bobbin into this little stem right there. And when you hear that audible click, you can no longer twist. So if you ever have, and it happens to me still once in a while if I'm not paying attention. If you end up with a bobbin that's like, why does that look so loopy? It's because the bobbin had to twist itself to get on that pin before it started actually threading your bobbin. So you do want to make sure you twist in there and have it click in. I'm going to go ahead and get my, I'm going to get my batting handy, and I'm going to get my back piece handy. Now, for my batting, thank you, Sandra. I always like to remind us of some of the simple things that sometimes we might forget because we just get busy or we get in a hurry, or, we're just life in general as an adult when we have to adult. Although adulting, I think, is overrated. Okay, so I don't always use tape. I have tape and I have transport tape, and I have some Kimberbell tapes. Those are my favorite tapes. But if I have something that's big, like this, and I have a 5x7 hoop, it can only go in one place. It really can't go anywhere else. So I'm just going to save myself the tape and the spray stuff, and I'm just going to hold mine in place. If you prefer to tape yours down, that's fine. Please take care to make sure that you keep your tape out of your sewing area, because that just picking stitches out of tape is like my least favorite thing on the planet. All right, so we're doing the positioning stitch. All right, so fabric one for me is the teal. If you are using the orange, so this is fabric one for you if you're using the orange kit. This is fabric one for you, your back, if you're using the teal kit. So I'm going to go ahead and position my batting. And then I'm going to just hold, I can see where it's going to go. So I definitely want to make sure that I give myself room. So one of the things that I try to do is line up one edge, because then I only have to trim 3 sides. All right. And it also gives me enough batting to grab onto. All right. I did a lesson yesterday and I turned all the features off so that I could take it back to the default, and one has forgotten how much they miss and forget about the auto down 0.1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run that tack down. So I'm just holding mine. So what I did, and most of them are the same. Here's my line. I've got one side of my batting right up against that line. So that means that's going to be the one side I won't have to trim. And then I just have to trim the other 3 sides. Time saver. That's it. That's the only bonus. It's a 5x7 hoop. Even the larger size, the batting can't go anywhere. The other tip from that is if you do a lot of these, you're always going to have a bag of batting scraps. It gives you the opportunity maybe to cut a piece that's a little bit shorter, because look at, I've got an inch up here that I'm going to be trimming off. All right. So if you are following along on our directions, you have done step number 3, color stop number 1. So here's how I identify. Step number 3 is the number here. Where you see this, that's a color stop. So if you come over here, you'll see that these are my color stops here. So I did number 1, and then I did the tack down line. Why not 2 sides? You could give it a try. It just depends. That I might be tempted to tape, because if it slips at all, then it's really hard to get close. But try it. Yeah, I usually just do the 3 sides, but 2 would work too. All right, so I've already done that. I placed my batting. I've run color stop 2, which is the tack down. Color stop 3 is the next one up. Right now I'm going to trim the batting close to my stitching line. And I think I have enough room here that I can just do it right here on the machine. Here's got my double curves. I love a double curve scissor because I can get right inside the hoop. Look how close you can get, because they are kind of bent. So it's got kind of an angle that it's easier on your hands. Even at that weird spot, it's easy to get them in because they have a double curve on them. So on the trimming part, this trimming on the batting, that's where your seams are going to sew together. So the cleaner you can make that, the less bulk you'll have to deal with later when you go to turn your bag. So this is our lesson for today. Our lesson for today with this project is how to reduce bulk. And reducing bulk happens as you go along, so that when you get to the final part of the project and you have to turn it right side out, that you don't have a lot of bulk that you can't get to now because you have sewn something else on top of it. All right, so I actually pressed all of my fabric and with a little best press prior to class, and now I'm going to set this down. If I wanted to, I could spray based on this one, but since again it's going to do, if I look in my if I look at my sewing order over here on the right, it's color stop 3. Color stop 3 essentially is on page 9. I have to turn pages over. And it's actually going to do a tack down first, and then it's going to do the quilting. So it's going to do them one at a time. And we're not going to actually trim our fabric, which is always a great idea not to trim fabric, because you could still get some pulling. I mean, it could still pull towards the center. So if you've trimmed right up to the edge, sometimes you kind of short sheet yourself. All right. I'm going to use the same thread. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm going to use the same thread for my quilting detail. So I'm just going to, why is this not, oh, I know what it is. Needle up, needle down. I was working with a customer the other day and I had her set everything back to the default. And you know, after you've had your machine for a while, you have kind of these things that you set on it. And there we go. No. Okay. I'll figure it out later. Ooh, I think that thread's going to be pretty on this. I couldn't see the little bits of tan in there from the side of the thread. I could only really see the purple and the green and the blue, but now I can really see a lot of different colors. This is going to be fun. The machine bobbin is in, Margaret. I wouldn't have gotten this far if I didn't have a bobbin, because the machine the sensor would have gone no. It is a it's a mirage color, so it just has a number, and it's number SD40.
Michelle?
Yes.
I lost the video and I had to get back in. What color bobbin did you wind your?
So for this, I wound the same color of thread that I was using. You
Okay.
can use white. It's not really going to show because it's going to get covered at some point. Ooh, look how pretty that thread is, though. So it did, you know, it wouldn't matter, but I just went ahead. Since it's embroidery thread, I went ahead and wound it so it would be the same. You can use a pre-wound bobbin because in the end, it's not going to show.
Okay.
I think what was fun though is if you had some other sewing kind of thread, like the Tootie is actually a cotton sewing kind of thread for, you know, quilting and stuff, not necessarily an embroidery thread. So I think sometimes people forget that they can use those things as well. All right, so here's a place where your really tiny scissors that I just showed you with a pointy tip are going to come in handy. So with this, the start stop point was in the same place for all 5 stitches. So each time the machine started and stopped, it made a knot. All right, so I can use the point of this to trim some of that knot down. Nothing's going anywhere at this point. It's been stitched down 5 times just to kind of get some of that bulk out. The other thing that you can do, and we used it a lot in last month's Kimberbell project when we did, or actually it wasn't the last month, it was the Deck the Palms. So if you remember, we pulled our bobbin thread up to avoid having the back side of something look icky because we did that ornament. But in this case, if you wanted to, you know, to do that, you could have done that as well. Either way, but with this, since it's, you know, I know I'm going to have a construction line that when I put the bag together, that's going to be inside this line. So all I need to do is just trim it down a little bit. And you can also take a lighter to it and burn it down. Just be careful. The idea is that you singe the thread, not torch your project. So, all right. I am going to take this over to the table because I am going to re-hoop again. All right. Mirage is, it's Wonderfill. It's a division of Wonderfill. So we have, we have quite a few colors, but really I grabbed that one because it was the only one that colors matched the fabric that I was using. So this is done for now. I'll give it a press later. And I will give it a press because again, it flattens out and, eliminates bulk. So I'm going to go ahead and hoop for my front of my bag. And I will have some tape handy, some traditional tape handy, because for some of these pieces, I will need tape, especially when I begin to add the lining parts in. That won't come into play for a little bit, but when I have to start using those lining pieces, I'm going to need tape to keep them in the right position. So I'll tell you, I did a project the other day and I was so careful. I'm trying to think of which one it was. I was so careful to get all of the pieces situated on the front. I used a little bit of spray based on the back to kind of hold the lining up out of the way. And I was stitching along, and this was something that had a fill stitch in it. I was stitching along and it's like, what does my lining look like? A triangle. It's because I still ended up catching it. All right. We're going to start our fun part. And that's all of our stitching. So we have finished all this. Oh, I guess the other one had registration marks. It had one more thing to stitch, but I'm going to show you an easier way to match things without sticking a thumbtack in them. So I don't really need the registration marks. If you stitched them, it's fine. But if you did not, you don't need to, because I actually ended up pulling mine out to get rid of the thread. So registration marks and then a T at the top. A T at the top is helpful if you have something that has a top and a bottom. This does not. It doesn't matter which way you put it. It's up no matter what. So I didn't do that either. I'm going to show you a way to actually just use a little pen to kind of situate it and then tape it down. So that's kind of what we're going to do with that. But if you did do these, you're fine. Still don't trim. Don't trim anything. Don't trim you can trim the excess stabilizer, but don't trim the fabric. I'm not going to do anything with it right now. I'll trim everything at the same time. Time saver. Okay, so we are now doing part 4, and that's the piecing. And they make it sound so sweet. Piecing and finishing the bag. You have no idea. So when we go get that design, if you did those last steps, no harm, no foul, it's fine. I just didn't do them when I did the sample because I didn't want to have to pick those stitches out later because they're right in the seam line. Those positioning marks are right in the seam line. And if you have a project that's big, it could be really helpful. However, this one's not big. It's 5x7. If we can't find a corner in a 5x7 designs, we got bigger problems than not having a thumbtack and a mark. So, all right. So I'm going to go get the second part of my design, and that is this guy right here. So you make sure you get the 5x7 one. Oh, look at that. 71 color stops. Buckle up, ladies. All right. So I'm going to do set and embroider. Okay. So for this one, it's actually going to embroider all of those positioning marks for you ahead of time. So you're going to know ahead of time. So there's a couple of things you can do. If you're new to doing piecing like this is where your chart can come in handy. I still have mine over here, and that's this guy. All right. So when it sews out, it's going to sew all of these positioning lines for us. So it's going to look like this, but without fabric before we start adding fabric. So the numbers tell you where we're adding fabric. In other words, in what we're putting this puzzle together. This is the centerpiece. We'll do this. So what you can do if you want to make it easier for you for the transition, so you don't forget, is take one of your air erasable markers and just write the numbers on your stabilizer. Or actually, I think you're going to have to write them on your batting. Yeah. You'll be writing it on your batting so that you can keep track of where you're at. For this one, I think you're gonna be fine because I definitely am gonna go slower. I'm gonna say check and make sure you have this color, check and make sure you have this fabric, check and make sure you've got your tape handy or whatever you need for at least the first 12 to 15 steps. After that, you'll have it down without a problem. If you're worried, we're going to write the numbers down and I'll tell you when to write the numbers in. And then that way, that and having your chart in front of you should have you with a successful little bag when we get done. All right. So I brought up the next pattern. And the first thing is to load the embroidery file and hoop the lightweight mesh stabilizer. I've done those two steps. I am on page 9, step 3, where it says stitch the batting placement line and place the remaining base project batting. Now, if I wanted to really keep thread out of my, if I wanted to reduce the amount of thread, I could just tape my batting to the center of the hoop and just run one tack down because it's going to fit. The hoop's not that big. But I'm going to go ahead and do it as written. But just know that sometimes you can look ahead, especially if you're going to make more than one. If you're going to make another one, you're going to go, okay, where could I have saved some time here? Well, this is a placement line. This is a tack down line. If you have a placement line and a tack down line, maybe you can, maybe you can save some time by only running one of them. It's up to you. I'm going to just do it as written today. And let's go. So this is my placement line. How's everybody doing? Are we having fun out there? Yay. And I'm going to just show you that little trick about pulling your bobbin thread after it says the placement line here. All right, so I showed you the area where all of the knots kind of all piled up in that one corner. So you can just leave your hoops on. I'm just going to show you the back of mine. So I can see this little knot, which looks pretty benign when there's only one of them. But if there's like 5 or 6 that all stop in the same place, then I'm going to probably want to get rid of them so that I don't end up with a bunch of knots. This is a placement line. If one stitch falls out, it will be fine. But what I am going to show you is how to pull your bobbin thread in case you don't want that to happen again. So I have my placement line. I'm going to place my batting now. On this one, I'm not going to try to position my batting so I don't have to trim. And here's why. Because this is when it's going to sew all of those lines. It's going to sew all of those lines, and then it's going to ask me to trim. I want to make sure I have batting all the way around all sides. So this won't be one of those times where I try to make the trimming part easier. What I'm really concerned about is having enough batting when all those stitches lay down. All right. So if I wanted to pull my bobbin thread, I've got my batting down. I'm going to touch my needle down up. And I'm just going to pull that thread a little bit. And then now I've got the bobbin thread that's up from the bottom. Okay. And then when I finish this one, I will show you what the difference is on the tie off. So I'm just going to let it start stitching. And then I'm just going to cut these extra threads. And when I turn it over, there won't be that knot on the bottom. So that's always a choice you can make to not have that tie off. It still ties off. You just don't have a wad of thread down there. I like the size of the next size up. I think I'm gonna do one of those. I think it's kind of fun. Could be a handy size. I'm wondering, I don't know what the finished size of it is, but I'm wondering if it would hold a tablet or something in it. Well, that's kind of pretty just by itself with all those colors, huh? That's going to be a fun one to follow. All right. So now I've done that one. I can, step 6 on page 9 is to trim the batting. So I'm going to take it off to do that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and number mine. So if you want to do it too, we'll do it together just so that I know that I'm going to stay on track. Just a nice step if you're new to these kinds of projects. Doesn't take that much time. So this is 1. This is 2, 3, 4, 5. Gives you an idea of where you're going next. Okay. So step number 7 says place the piece 1 inner square fabric right side up, completely covering section 1. Refer to the template diagram on page 23. That's this guy. To make sure that you have the correct fabric. So let's see what fabric I need to use. So coming back over here, I have everything labeled. Fabric 1, fabric 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I'm guessing it's going to be this one because it's the only one that's square. But if you don't remember, you can turn back here and it'll tell you that which piece. So like piece 1 inner square, and then fabric 2 is pieces 2 to 5, pieces 10 to 13, pieces 18 to 21. So you can have this handy as well. But once you get going, I think you're going to be okay. All right, so I'll keep these 2 out, and I'm going to go ahead and get this fabric, and this is going to be the first one that goes down. So it's stitch the trimming placement line and trim the fabric close to the stitching line. Okay, let's go do that. So it gives me a really good sized piece. You can tape if you like or not. When I get a little bit more tight in some of the areas, I may go ahead and start taping things down. I can't remember if I did or not. All right, so this is one of those areas that I want to show you. So in the beginning, remember I said we're going to, I'm going to zoom in on this, that we're going to trim to reduce bulk. All right. So when I fold this back, I've got a piece here that's going to go here all the way to this end. All right. If I wait, this is the bottom part, the one that's already stitched down is the one that you're going to want to remove some of the bulk from. If you keep that pattern of removing the bulk from the bottom part, so if something's going to go on top of this, then it'll keep you all lined up. So I'm just going to trim next to the stitching line. It actually has us doing that anyway, because that line now is your placement line. It's not a seam line, it's your placement line. The seam is actually going to sew down here. All right. So that is my placement line. I'm taking as much bulk out as I can. And I'll do that all the way through, only so that when you end up, you do end up with an easier to turn bag. All right, so this was 1. This is 3. This is 2 up here. So let's see what we're needing for step 2. All right, so for step 2, guess what? We're all on the same page. 2, 3, 4, and 5 are going to be those shorter white pieces. So when you cut your pieces, you cut them in different increments. So some of these are shorter. So you should have, I think this is like 3, 2.5, 3, and 4, or something like that. But you have 3 different heights, right? You have 4 each of 3 different heights, and look at how they stack. So number 2 is going to get the shorter ones. Number 10, when we get to there, is going to have the middle-sized one. Number 18 is going to have the longer one. So I'm grabbing 1 piece of fabric 2. And I am going to put wrong sides together. It's hard to tell sometimes. I'm putting the wrong sides together. And if you have an iron, you might want to turn it on. If you don't have one, you might want to grab one because you're going to need it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stitch. All right, so now what I have to do is I have to press this and then fold it up. All right. So you can see how bulk adds up, quickly. That's why we want to do some trimming. On the whites, I'm not going to trim this. I could, if I was using a darker color, I would trim this. I'm not going to with the white because the white has some show through. So I'm going to leave that one there. And I'm going to go ahead and take this over to the board and press it. So let's see. Right side of fabric, stitch, seam, flip, and press the fabric right side up. See pattern notes and helpful tips on page 3 for more pressing tips. All right, I'm going to show you a good pressing trip. Trip or tip, doesn't matter. All right, so let me get you over here. So I used an erasable marker, so my marks are all going to disappear right now. But if you wanted to do that, hopefully you used something that lasted. Always press flat first. Flat sets your seam line. Press it up, use your finger to turn it, and then press again. All right. The one thing I love about these Panasonic irons is they absolutely fit inside my hoop. All right. So that's kind of flat. If I take my clapper on it and I press it down, it's going to be flatter than you can ever even think of it. Because the wool mat pulls the heat to the back and the clapper pulls up the heat from the front and gives you just like this razor sharp seam in here, which again flattens down your fabric. Now, if you don't have show through and you want to trim some of that, feel free to do that right now, because the next one's going to sew here and you're not going to be able to trim it. Again, on the white ones, it's up to you. If you used SF 101 to get to prevent the show through, then you can probably just go ahead and trim that. If you didn't, you might want to leave it. The whites, I'm just going to leave. All right. All right, so that's 1 and 2. Did everybody get 1 and 2? You can just give me a thumbs up. Perfect. Yay. All right, so now we're doing 3. So we're actually going to use all 3 or all 4 of those white pieces that are the shorter pieces. So they're these pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and select the next. All right, so let's look at what we can trim. We can really only trim this here. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that. It doesn't ask me to do it, but I want to get as much bulk out of my seams as I can. So I'm going to do it anyway. I'm just going to get that one piece out of there, because now I'm going to put another white piece over there. And then on this, since this is kind of going to get covered, I can probably trim some of this out too. If you have SF 101, definitely trim it out. Not all of it, just kind of reduce the bulk a little bit. And so now I'm going to take the next piece. These tone on tones sometimes really throw me as to which side is the right side up. Maybe it's this way. As long as I get them all going the same way, they'll either all be upside down or they'll be right side up, right? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and position this right on that, on my stitching line here. And I'm going to stitch that. All right, so now I'm going to press and flip and fold. So this is why it's kind of nice if you have the ability to put your iron kind of close to your machine so that it's easier to get to. So I'm guessing, again, I'm going to press it flat. It seats all the stitching. And then I'm going to open it up. I'm going to press it down again. I love being able to get a full-size iron in my hoop. The mini irons are nice, and I love my little mini irons, but it's nice to be able to get a full-size iron that really gets hot in your hoop.
It actually looks pretty straight to me.
All right, if you get lost as to what step you're on, look up here at your color advance, your color stop. The next one I'm going to sew is color stop 7. So I can come over to my chart and I can look for color stop 7. So the next one is going to sew across the bottom of and you can see it, the stitching across the bottom. And then we're definitely trim, remember, so. All right, so I'm gonna get this back on the machine. So I'm going to go ahead and do my trimming.
Yeah, you want really good. That's perfect.
All right, doing a press.
Yeah.
All right, so this is going to be my placement line for my last piece of white fabric. So if you're following along on your directions, we are doing color stop number 9. Which is at the top of page 11. So it's going to go this way. And again, we're going to trim fabric. And the last one. All right, so I'm going to get this pressed and flipped over, and then I'm going to take a look at my color chart again because I need to know what color is next. So if you've got the orange kit, yours is the tan. And my guess is mine is going to be the light purple, but I'm going to check. All right. So let me take a look here on my chart. So we are doing color stop number 11, and we're beginning to do the second row of colors. So I'm setting fabric to a side, And I'm going to be looking for fabric pieces 6 to 9. Okay, pieces 6 to 9 are fabric 3. So for me, it's the dark purple. For you with the orange, you will be using the tan color. So here is your example. So we're on this color right now. If you're using the orange, we're on this color right now. If you're using the teal blue set. So I have my 3 pieces of that fabric. And I'm just gonna set them over here. There's only one, there's 4 in this, there's only 2 times that this one is used. So the shorter one is the one we're using first. Make sure that you do grab the shorter ones, not the longer ones. And then I'm gonna go ahead and do my basting line, and I'll do some trimming of some excess fabric out of the way. All right, so if you are following along, this is what we just stitched stitch 11 that did this diagonal line. So now we're going to actually trim the fabric, the white fabric, to the best of our ability along that that diagonal line. Isn't that beeping when you go too fast, when you go faster than the stitch regulator? You're welcome. I know I'm in class, but my ears are everywhere. All right, so I trimmed that to the best of my ability. And I'm going to go ahead and position this. So for if you're doing the teal kits, yours is a dark purple with the, I guess these are like stars. And if you're doing the other one, yours is the tan. All right, I'm going to do the press again. I can trim a little bit more of that. All right. We're going this way now. So this is going to be kind of a fun thought is when you get done, if you're saving all your scraps, you're going to have a pile of fabric that's more fabric than you actually left on the bag because it has you cut the pieces kind of big. So it's fun that you will you'll have a, so I don't know, you could do some kind of a raggy project, I guess, with leftover chunks. I thought it was fun. I'm like, man, I looked in the garbage can and I'm like, wow, looks like all that cutting I did ended up in the trash. And trimming. How we doing? Oops. Look what I did. I forgot to put my fabric down. Oops. So let me put my fabric down and back up a step. Just when you start to get comfortable, right? Every time. Come to think of it, I think I did that once when I was doing the sample as well. I'm like, oh, I hate it when I do that. All right, another press. All right, so flipping it over, pressing it down. And then using my clapper to really get that straight edge. All right. The last dark purple one. And trimming out as much bulk as we can. And my last dark purple, or your last tan if you're using the orange kit. All right, so I'm on to the next set of colors. So I'm going to look at my chart. I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm on to a white color again. I can see that because white is white for all of us. So now I'm going to grab the next size. So remember, we don't want to grab the longer ones. We want the ones that are like the middle size right now. And that's fabric 2 for all of us is white, I think. Unless you're doing your own colors, that's fine too. So I'm going to go ahead and start by doing my tack down, and then I'm going to do some serious trimming because this purple is pretty dark. So we want to try to get as much of that up because even, you know, on the teal, it wasn't too bad, but if you've got the darker purple, and with your, if you have the tan, you'll probably be okay because it's not quite as dark as our dark purple here. So I'm just going to do a little fold here and trim out as much as I can while I still can. And then that way, maybe I won't get as much show through. So I made the choice not to add SF101 to it because I really did not want to have to turn it with that stuff with SF101 on it because it just really is going to make it bulky. And that was one of the things that Kimberbell actually recommended as well. All right, so there's that first line. Now let me see, I have to choose which is going to be my right side and my wrong side. That's definitely right side. I love the tone on tones. I really struggle on which is the upside and which is the downside. All right, so I'm going to place this on top and tack this down. So if you're following along with us on the instruction sheet, we are on color stop number 20. So color stop 20 coincides with step number 51 on page 12. Yeah, I think I'm going to be okay. I'm not too concerned about the show through. So I can see really my worst part of show through is right there. So I can try and go in there and take a little bit more of it out. Let me get my little pointy guys. Much better. Oops. Oh, there's that safety gate. Got to close the baby gate. All righty. Right. Pressing, flipping, folding, pressing. All right.
Hey, Michelle, when you get done sewing this, can you slow down for a sec? I had a
Yes.
bob at malfunction.
Okay, no worries. I'll actually slow down and just wait for a little bit. I'll give you y'all 5 minutes to catch up. Does that work?
Yeah,
You're
thanks.
welcome. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry, Donna, that you feel that way. Donnie. Donna. Sorry. Can't read the screen there. Yeah, it's every once in a while, it's a day like that. I know. I really hate it when anything interferes with my sewing zen, my embroidery zen. All right, so we're actually moving along pretty well. I'm gonna just hold here for 5 minutes and then we'll get going again. How we doing, Irene? Are we caught up?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, my thread.
No, don't be, no, don't be sorry. I go fast because this is like the second time I'm doing it. And yeah, you guys can always slow me down. I'm seeing you guys just in zen with your sewing machines there. I'm not gonna break your stride, but if you need me to slow down, it's always okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
so we are on color stop number 24. And that means that if we are on color stop number 24, that we are on step number 61 at the bottom of page 12. I've sewn my placement line. I'm gonna put my piece of white fabric down and I've trimmed. So you'll notice I really have been making an attempt on the purple to really trim pretty closely there because before show through. Not so much bulk right now, although bulk is always, less bulk is always desirable. But for more so through, I don't have so much show through. And it's the press and the flip and the press again. After all this pressing, you're going to have the flattest piece of batting in the kingdom. All right. We are on color stop number 24, the last piece of white before we shift to the next color. And trim, trim, trim. I didn't see the cat butt. Did I miss it? Pets are always welcome. By the way of the cat, showing that is actually says they like you. It's a good thing humans don't have the same behavior, right? Yeah, you did, and I put it back. He had me check, he had me just pull out and check this, but it was right. All right, so I'm gonna take a look at my chart because I finished the white. So now I'm doing 14, 15, 16, and 17. So I'm gonna look here and see which color is 14, 15. Here's 14 through 17. So it's fabric 4. So it's going to be the orange stars for those of you that have the orange kit, or this one. And for me, my fabric 4 is more teal. Right. You're making progress. So here's where I can see it gets really kind of bulky because there's points from 2 different colors there. So I'm gonna get in there and pull some of this out, even if I have to cut a few stitches, because it's gonna give me a bump in that area. There's just so much of it, and I don't want a bump. So I'm just gonna try to reduce that bump a little bit. There we go. I don't know. Right. So if you're the teal kit, this is the color we're using now. If you're the orange kit, you're using the fabric like this that's orange stars.
Michelle, which
Yeah.
size of that teal are you using, the 4x2 or the 3x2?
So this is the shorter side.
It just seemed
So
like
if
it was a little too short.
Oh yeah, you're right. Thank you for catching me. The shorter side is for the upper corners. I was
Okay.
kind of in my Zen place. So
That's what I was thinking. It might be the short ones, and then when I was moving a little bit ahead, and I saw that it just didn't seem.
But you know, in all honesty, I don't have to take it off. It would work because the other color is going to cover it. But I'm going to take it off so that
Okay.
I'm with all of you. And thank you. I'm always appreciative when you catch me before I've gone too far. But yeah.
Okay.
The bonus here is that all of your pieces are big enough. And I was just in my Zen because that's what we were doing, is the smaller one first and the bigger one second.
He does not have a resource, nor does he know where to send you, because obviously, huh? A Chinese holding company, he said. Uh-huh. And that's happening a lot. So it's one of those things where there's slowly but surely dying off.
All right, I'm gonna pull out that thread, go to the back and see if I have anything more to pull out. Looking good. All right. And so I'm going to grab the bigger piece of my fabric 4, like a good girl and back up my stitch. Yeah, that looks a little bit better, doesn't it? So I have to go back one so I can, there we go. Oops, sorry about the camera. There we go. Let's see if I can do that. Trying to pass underneath the arm of the camera arm here to get to the iron. I need to make me one of those little ironing TV trays for work. I don't know if you guys have seen those or not. I was introduced to it at one of my girlfriend's quilt retreat, but they take those wooden TV trays that fold up, the small ones, and then they cover the top with Insel Bright and a layer of batting, and then they cover it with a layer of fabric, and it's a portable ironing board. It's a beautiful size, though. It's really tiny. It's about, I don't know, I want to say it's about probably 20 inches by 14 inches or something. So it's a nice size. I have one at home. I need to make one for here, I guess. Would make it much easier. All right. Got all my trimming out there. Let me get my other piece. Okay, we're moving on to color stop 32 after this. I'm pretty sure. Okay, Susie, thank you for joining us. I know this one is a long one. I'm sorry, but we have a lot of flipping and folding to do. Glad you
Doing
could-
great. Thank you, Michelle. Have a
You're
good,
welcome.
bye-bye, hon.
Bye-bye. So we are on color stop 32 is coming up. So if I find that one, oops, I am at the very bottom of page 13 is what's coming up. So all right. The routine of pressing and folding will be over soon. We're almost there. All right.
store in your upper body if you were carrying it like, yeah.
That,
Like a pattern.
no, it was a program so you could sit at your computer and it would show you. This is how it was.
Thumbnailer. Okay, so I am referring to what comes next. So I've done. Now I did 14, 15, 16, and 17. So now I'm back to white for a little bit here. So I'm looking at doing 18, 19, 20, and 21. So I'm back to white. And I am on color stop 35. So pat yourself on the back. You've made it halfway through. 35 out of 71. I know. Probably not comforting at this point, right? It will be though. So we're back to the whites for the next four, which is 18, 19, 20, and 21. Fabric 2. Okay, I'm still here. I hope you are too. Yay. We're getting close. The nice thing is once we get done with the pineapple part, then we won't have to press in the hoop quite so frequently. We just want to make sure we have all those pieces nice and pressed. We've come too far, right? We've come too far to let it go now. All right, so now I am going to 22, 23, 24, and 25, which for me is going to be fabric 5, the dark purple. If you have the orange, it's going to be the tan fabric. We're all getting our cardio in, getting up and down. Doing the press, right? Oh, Donna, it's a black and white kitty. It's a tuxedo kitty. I had a tuxedo kitty. Her name was Pyewacket. And if you guys remember what movie that came from, Lori's chuckling out there. She remembers that movie, don't you? Oreo. Oreo is cute too. Not too worried about show through this go around since I have the dark purple coming up. So you know, my other cat was a Maine Coon. I had a Maine Coon for 12 years. She was a pretty kitty, 22 pounds, and not chubby at all. Just really big parents. All righty, let's get this guy pressed. Kenya is 21 pounds. Yes. It's not uncommon. Ah, I was afraid that might happen. Anyway, for Maine Coons, it's really not uncommon to have, you know, turkey sized. All right. You don't get to do that. Now I'm just going to back up a few stitches, not all the way. And I'm going to definitely be paying attention for the rest of these whites. So what I can do is, and you guys may not know this, but on the Brother Baby Lock machines, if you press and hold the go button and don't take your finger off of it, it'll go slow until you take your finger off of it. So sometimes when you get to those points where you just need a little bit of extra time to make sure that it doesn't get flipped over in this case, then you can actually stop the machine just before it and then press and hold in your start stop button. When you let go of it, it'll speed back up. But it's nice to have those few seconds of the machine just going a slower pace when it's in an area that could be problematic. All right. Hey, we're on step 46. All right, so I'm not gonna let it happen to me again. So I'm going to start. And as it approaches this white area here, I can do one of two things. I can stop the machine, or if you have a stiletto, that's that little pointy object, you can actually use the stiletto to hold it, kind of hold them down in place so it doesn't catch. Either way, or slow the machine down.
Michelle?
Yep.
On 46 is the two that we're doing now, is there a little bit of fabric showing from the other fabric?
I'm not sure what the question is. This is what it should look like. Is that
Okay,
what you're asking?
yeah, I think I'm doing it right.
Okay, so on the whites are different because up until the whites, all the fabric pieces kind of fit together to where we didn't get that kind of, it looks like the piece is short, but it's not. It's not, because these are going to be corners that go this way. So it's going to get cut off. So I guess, I don't know, if it looks like mine, you're doing it right. If it doesn't, I'm not sure where. So I'm on page 4, or I'm on step 48. So let me look at the directions for color stop 46.
Well, I'll just keep going. It's
So which color did you put down for color stop 46?
well,
White?
my color when I cut it, it was wrong. So I'm doing number 4, which is the honeycomb purple.
Okay. All right. So if you have that, so your white is wrong. Is that what you said? So you're doing the purple?
Yes.
Okay, you're still gonna need something for where the purple goes. You should have had enough of the you should have had enough of fabric 5 to be able to make strips, because you still have to do these. Even if you don't have the white, it's fine, but you still have to do the purple ones. So that means you need something that's that size. So the size that you need for the purple there is let's see, that was fabric 4. They're 2 by 3.
Yeah. Well, I'll
No.
just go along because my white is 5.
Okay. So I guess if your white is fine, for number step 46, let me see. Step 40, color stop 46 looks like we were actually still putting white on. Oh no, maybe it's the tan fabric. I got it. Yeah, so it would have been purple or tan if you so here's the white that we did. So I maybe sometimes looking at it this way is it looks like it's here's the white. This would be the tan, or for me, it's the, I used teal here because that's what that step was. And then I'm using the purple there. So what we're doing is these outer ones here. So they should be shorter than what your white ones were. And then we're coming in and doing these corners.
Yep. Okay, I'll figure it out.
I think you're probably going to be okay. You got plenty of fabric. You can quickie cut some more pieces in a different color.
Yeah.
I would say just keep going. Almost there. Only one more color. And then we're on to the rest of the construction. Okay, so here's the nice thing about this last color. You don't have to press before you can go on to the next one because it's the corners. So you can do all the pressing at the end. Woohoo, right? So I can just push this out of the way because it's not going to be anywhere near the rest of them. So I'm just going to press everything at once. I still have to trim, but I don't have to press. I can do that at the end after I've done all 4 corners. Yay, right? Yay, team. All right, the rest of it's going to go faster now after we've gotten the pineapple created. I want to know who decided to name this a pineapple. Where's my quilty ladies? Who named the pineapple the pineapple? I mean, is there, I think it's been around for a while, hasn't it? That design?
It has been around for a long time. I think it's just the layering effect makes it look like a pineapple.
Okay. See, I'm not a quilty. I like to quilt like in my hoop and stuff, but not so much. I'll do a little bit of piecing, but I'm not, I'm not like, I made a sampler quilt in the 70s, and it was all like hand applique and all that kind of stuff. Took me 4 years to quilt it because I had to quilt it by hand, right, on one of those lap hoops. And you can't use that in the summertime because you can't sit underneath a quilt and quilt when it's like 100 degrees outside. So, but it was nice. But it like that was the last one I did. I'm like, okay, I'm over that. But I don't remember doing. I remember doing like drunkard's path and different things like that, but I don't remember doing a pineapple. My friend is the quilter of the 2 of us. And what happened to the last one? Oh, here it is. And so she's the quilty friend, but I always just tell her, I look at her and go, oh, you do such a great job. I'll just let you do it. And Yeah, I don't shred fabric and sew it back together. That's what I always tell her. And she laughs at me. All right, so I got all 4 of my corners on now, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop and press everything, all 4 of those corners. But it is quite nice to not have to get up each time and just get up for the last one. And then I'm gonna hang out to make sure everybody's in the same spot. Because we're going on to the zipper next.
Okay, what color number did you do for the last blocks of the pineapple?
So which one do you have, Carolyn? Do you have the blue or the peach?
I have the blue,
Okay, so I did this.
what number was it?
So that was well, I don't have a number on it anymore. So let me look. It was fabric number 5, I think. Hold on. Let me look.
It was fabric 4.
Fabric 4. Okay. Hey, this one was a doozy, you guys, huh? So right now we are on page 17. We've done all of our corners. And the next color stop is color stop 59, which is going to which is going to sew a line across the top here so that we can trim all the excess off. So I'm going to hang here for a minute. How's everybody doing? Are we close?
Could we take a potty break?
No, absolutely not. Yes, go
Okay.
ahead. Let's take 10 minutes. Let's take 10 minutes, everyone. That way everybody gets a chance to get caught up. Thank you for reminding me.
You have to read?
All right, while I was waiting, I went ahead and trimmed my excess stabilizer off of my back piece. I did not trim the fabric. I just got the stabilizer out of the way. All right, so if you're following along with the directions, we are on page 17 and we are on step number 148, color stop number 59. So it's going to sew across the top here so that we can trim out the excess fabric. And this is also going to be part of our zipper placement line. Make sure nothing flips back on itself. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and trim well because my zipper is going to go here. So I want to really do a nice job trimming.
Are you trimming above that line?
Yes, ma'am. Because that's where our zipper is going to go. So, and I'm trying to get all of as much of it out as I can. Because we're going to actually end up sewing our zipper. It's in this area here. So I want to have this be as nice as possible. All right, and when I take it off, I'm going to kind of give it a little tap to get the debris out of the way. All right, So that was color stop number 59, and I have trimmed the fabric, which was step number 149. The next step, which is color stop 60, is going to stitch the zipper placement line. This is where the zipper is going to go. And in stitch 151, we're going to be removing the batting from that area. And that's where, then we're going to put our zipper down. And that's where the double-sided tape comes in handy. So I'm going to go ahead and run this color stop. This is where my zipper is going to go. All right, so you can see the line's a little bit above our cut line. Not to worry, because there's going to be part of the bag that goes underneath the zipper. So we've got, here's the zipper, and then we've got this layer here and this layer here. So we're going to actually trim this out now, just that, not the stabilizer, just the batting. And if you look, when the batting tacked down, it left a hole in there for you to actually do that. So I'm just going to cut right along that line. Don't cut your stabilizer now, just cut the batting. All right, that's what it should look like now. And I'm going to move over to the table for this next step so I can show you flat on the table. All right, so looking at the directions, we are on step number 152. It's center the zipper right side up inside the stitched box with the pull on the left. Be sure the zipper pull and the stop are outside of the stitch area. So essentially, we're going to put it in like that. All right. So this can slip. You can tape it all you want, but with the transport tape, it's going to be hard to pick the stitching out of the tape. So here's my suggestion to you. The stitch that stitches it down is going to run somewhere between the very edge of the zipper and the teeth. So I'm going to just use a little bit of 1/8 inch double-sided basting tape. This is going to stay in there. I'm not taking it out. The 1/8 of an inch is one of my favorite sizes. And I'm not going to put it all the way from one end of the zipper to the other. I'm just going to kind of put it in there in some key areas, just so that it holds it straight as the machine stitches. So I can kind of gauge by setting it there how much I'm going to need. And I'm really out here on the outer edge because it isn't going to stitch there. Is it going to hurt anything if I stitch through it? No. Can it gum the needle? Yeah, but it won't hurt anything. But if I try and look at where it's going to stitch and then just keep things outside of this, outside of the stitching area, this is like the easiest way in the world to put a zipper in, because once you set it down, it isn't going to move. You don't need tape, additional tape. You don't need pins. You're just going to peel the protective paper off.
And Michelle, if we don't have that tape, how do we do this?
Then you do tape, like on the picture in the it'll be the same, but you're going to do tape across.
Okay.
So you'll be doing it a little, and what I'll do is I'll say, if you're using tape, put tape now.
Okay.
Okay. So what's the most important part? Number one, if you get the zipper on the right instead of the left, that's not a big deal. The customary is that the pull is on the left when the bag is closed. But what you do need to make sure of is that the teeth themselves are pretty straight in the middle of your space. So what I like to do is walk it. All right. So here's my zipper. It's flipped backwards. And I'm just going to start by placing part of it in the area that's left for me. Okay. If you're using tape, put a piece of tape here. And then I usually just roll it forward. I walk it or roll it forward so that I can see that I'm staying within the area. If you're using tape, you can put another piece of tape there. And then I just roll it all the way over to the end, trying to keep the teeth themselves straight. And then you can put a piece of tape at the end. All right, so you can tape across like this. You will be stitching through your tape. So know that you will have to pick some. If you've got paper tape, it's not so bad. The transport tape kind of sometimes sticks. But the paper tape, the Kimberbell paper tape usually just peels off easily. All right, so now that I've got this stuck down there, I'm going to actually flip it over and I'm gonna look at it from behind. I can see this quite well. I can see that it is straight in between the lines that are stitched for the placement line. If yours is not straight within that line, doesn't have to be perfect. So let me see if I can. So mine is a little bit high here and a little bit, maybe a little space there, but it's even. In other words, it's the same all the way across. All right. And what I usually do is I leave the most amount of space over to the left where my zipper pull is. And that is so if I ever want to do something on a larger bag scale, then my zipper pull is clear out of the way of my embroidery machine until it's time for me to open the bag, open the zipper. And you can do zippers a number of ways. We buy by specific lengths for the Kimberbell projects, but you can buy it by the yard. You can buy rolls, you can buy zipper pulls, you can get all kinds of stuff, you know, individually. I tend to buy zipper tape by the yard because I use a lot of it. So that way I always have what I need on hand, and there's a little bit less waste when you buy it by the yard. Because I know that I won't have this metal thing down here. So I'm probably going to start like right here. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to stitch the zipper tack down line, and then you'll be able to take that tape off. In my case, I'm just going to leave the double-sided tape on there because it's out there at the edges. It's not going to hurt anything. Make sure your zipper is way out of the way over here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and stitch that zipper tack down. I always forget the little gate, the little door to close the embroidery arm. All right, does everybody have a zipper in?
No, I have to change thread colors.
Okay.
Because it'll make me crazy if I can see my navy blue thread on the.
You won't though. You
I
won't though,
won't?
because the other fabric's gonna sew over the top of it. Look.
Oh.
So
okay.
you're stitching out here now, and when you get done putting the other pieces on, your navy blue thread is going to be completely covered. So I don't know that I would worry about it.
Okay, thanks.
So we're at the top of page 18. And we're gonna, for this, we are going to use a little bit of tape. And you will need the bag top pieces. So that means fabric 5, the bag top and the bag, well, there's
Michelle, should
yes.
we take the tape off that for those of us that
Yes.
use?
Yes, if you use tape, go ahead. Turn it over to the back side and make sure you're pretty straight in that hole there that you cut out. If you are, go ahead and take the tape off.
Okay.
If you're not, then you know, it just depends on how crooked you are. If it's not too crooked, don't worry about it. If it's really crooked, you're going to want to redo it. All right, so we are on, what page are we on? We are on page 18, step 155. So we have 2 pieces that are cut. No, we have one piece or two pieces. Let me look here. I think it's one piece. Where's my chart? Fabric one. All right, so I have, for me, this is my fabric one. For you, if you're doing the orange, this is your fabric one. I have two of these. One is for the top, one is for the bottom. I need to take them over and press them wrong sides together. Not right sides together, wrong sides together, because they're going to get stitched and then folded up. So wrong sides together, go ahead and give them a press. You have two of them. They're about 5.5 by, I think, 2.5. They were in fabric one. All right, so I have the first one. Okay, so what we're going to do is take the raw edges and we're going to place them up against that cut line that we did down here. So it's at the, and then when it stitches it down, then we'll be pressing it up, folding it and tacking it down to our zipper like this. So we're not putting it here because then we would close the zipper. We're taking the two raw edges. So my fold is down this way. This is my folded edge. And then the raw edges are up against that line that we trimmed at. That's the placement for this. And then we're going to sew color stop 62. So we are on page 18, step with 155. Place the raw edges of the below zipper fabric. They're both the same size. So one's a below zipper, one's an above zipper, but it doesn't matter because both pieces are the same size. And then stitch down, centering the fabric along the line that was stitched right here. So that's what we're going to do first. This is color stop 62. Raw edges up, fold down. Raw edges are up against the line where we trimmed. All right, so for this, we're going to use some tape. I'm going to use tape. So we're going to fold this up. And what we're going to fold it up and take it up to the zipper. If we were to stretch it, it's going to go right up to the teeth. Don't stretch it like that, because if it goes right up to your teeth, when you go to open the zipper, it's going to get caught. So you want to give yourself just a little tiny bit of space. So let me get mine taped and I'll show you how much space I gave myself. Where's my paper tape? I guess I just have transport back here. Okay. I want to zoom in on this. All right, so here's where I just stitched. If I folded it up and pressed it, it's going to have it right up against those teeth. That's not going to work. When you go to unzip the bag, it's going to catch. So I'm just going to fold it and give myself a little space there. It's not a lot of space, just a little space. And then tape it down. All right, so you should have at least a fingernail space in there so that when you go to unzip your zipper, it doesn't grab the fabric and get stuck. All right, here we go. Now we're going to sew color stop number 63. It's going to sew it across the top and tack that down. Okay. I'm now going to pull my tape off. All right, so that part's done. Now what we need is the above zipper. So we are doing flip the below zipper fabric up. We did that. Stitch below the line. We did that. Now we're going to remove, wait a second. Raw edges up, line up. We haven't done the top yet. We're going to remove the stabilizer from behind the zipper. So only this area right here. I can't get in there. There we go. A lot of times I'll do this with a seam ripper, but as luck would have it, the last time I tried to do this with the seam ripper, it did not end well because I grabbed the zipper tape and cut the zipper tape along with it. I was in a hurry. Isn't that always when those things happen? All right, so you should be able to see the back of your zipper now. It should be open. That's it. That's all we're trimming. Not on the sides or anything, not outside of the lines. Just trim that off. All right, so take on the back of the hoop. I'm going to move to the table for this. All right, so we have trimmed the zipper from the back. From the back of the hoop, we need one of our lining pieces. And the lining piece is not the one that's got the stabilizer on it. That's our back. All right, so we're going to take it and we're going to place it on that stitching line that just stitched down here. Right? It doesn't matter if you go down too low, you have plenty of fabric, but it's going to be pointing up for right now because we're going to do the tack down first. So there's the back of my hoop. You can tell by all the little lines there. And I'm just going to put this down. Now, this is one of those areas that I will take enough time to get it straight and make
Michelle?
sure that it's secure. Yes.
Does that piece have the 1/2 inch fold?
Yes, it does.
And
And
is
that is, well, the 1/2 inch fold. Wait a second. I missed something here, I guess.
Because I was reading before, we had to take one of those pieces and put a
Do a
1/2 inch.
1/2 inch fold. But let me see. Right side up. Yeah, so the fold is aligned. Okay, so we're not doing it up. You're right. You're doing the fold. So normally we would do this, it would tack it down and then we would fold it down and the fold would be already there. But you're right, I missed that because I didn't get time to get everything set up yesterday. It was kind of a crazy day, so I had to get in early. So yes, go ahead and do the fold. And then you are gonna just tape it with the fold up against the back of the zipper. Either way would have worked, but this works as per the directions. So up against right there, go ahead and press. So right up against on the back of the hoop, place the below zipper lining fabric right side up so the fold is aligned just below the zipper teeth and covers the cut edge of the stabilizer. All right, so I know if I go right up against the teeth, when I go to unzip it, it's going to get caught. So I'm coming down just a little bit. So I'm just leaving a little bit of a barrier there. And I am taping well.
Please tell us, do you need anything?
And so now what's going to happen is we're going to have a line that comes all the way around here in the front that's going to tack that down. That's going to be color stop number 64. Make sure that everything is flat on the back. The one thing I always worry about with tape on your machine is that it gets caught on the bed of the machine, rolls off, and then things go haywire. So from the front, put your hoop flat and just kind of go over the areas where you put tape so that they're sturdy. And let's go run that color stop 4. And I'm just lifting up the hoop and checking. And I'm also going to have my stiletto handy because I have edges here I know might catch. So I can, like I did for previous, I can actually stop and, make the machine go slow, but so I'm just double checking everything. And it's in here is where I would be concerned, but I can always stop. I can use a stiletto. All right, I don't want it to get caught. So I'm stopping and holding the button in so that it goes slow. Well, it goes around those areas. I got everything nice and smooth. I don't want it to get all wonky now. All right. So I'm also putting the 1/2 inch in the other piece that's going to be on the top momentarily. So I'm going to need my bag top, front, and then I'm also going to need this. So I just completed step 161, color stop number 64. At the bottom corner of page 18, it says place the above zipper fabric, aligning the fold just above the zipper teeth. So same thing, give yourself some space here. Here's my fold. I don't need a lot of space. I just don't want that fabric to get caught every time I open and close the zipper. And I'm gonna go ahead and use some tape for that. If I can remember where I stuck it. Yeah, I'm still not really quite sure how I end up needing like 12 rolls of tape and then I find them all at the end, you know? All right.
Okay, this one we don't flip and fold.
Nope,
yes, we
it's already
do.
folded and pressed. You had two pieces that were the same. So the fold line goes up by the zipper. And we're going to stitch color stop number 65, which is going to actually tack that down there. And then we're going to put the back piece on, just like we did this one with the 1/2 inch folded edge. All right, so here we go. Okay, let me get that tape off. Looking good. Look at how pretty that zipper looks. I love my variegated thread. I'm in love with it lately. I don't know why. I just am. All right. So turn the hoop over to the back. Same thing. We're going to tape this piece with the fold that it has to cover where your batting was on your stabilizer. And just give yourself a little bit of space around the zipper. So you have, it doesn't get, the fabric doesn't get caught in the zipper when you open the zipper. And then tape that down. And again, make sure that it stays taped down and that the machine isn't going to grab it and move it. And since I can't really push from the back of the hoop without pushing the project out, I'm going to go ahead and plug my phone in before it dies. That would be good. There we go. All right. I can't really push from here because I can push it out of the hoop. I turn it over and I push from the front side to make sure it's really stuck down there. Oh, I always forget the little gate here. All right. Woohoo! We're getting there. There we go. All right, so take your hoop off, turn it over, pull the tape off. Everything's all tucked down there. You can take all of the backside to tape off. So the next thing coming up with this is the front quilting. So here we are. Look at how pretty, looking good here. We are actually going to do the quilting part. So put on whatever thread you want to quilt with. While that's quilting, so some of you may have already prepared your strap. And if you did, you're going to need to cut a couple pieces off of that prepared strap for your D-ring to hold your D-rings. If you have not prepared your strap yet, no big deal. I'm going to show you a way to prepare that piece for your D-rings that is just a little bit less bulky. So sometimes 4 layers of fabric doesn't feel so bad when it's in a strap, but on your D-ring holders, you're going to have to fold that in half, which means you're going to have 8 layers of fabric, and you're going to have everything that's under here, batting, fabric, all that stuff, and the piece that's on the top. It's a lot of bulk. Sometimes what happens is it gets the D-ring holder gets pushed around under there. Sometimes where you took a lot of time to make sure that both the top and the bottom were even and taped before you put it in there, you open it up and it's like the bottom has slid. So I'm going to show you a little bit easier way to do that, where you'll have just a little bit less bulk. And I'm going to do that while this is doing its quilting. So if you haven't gotten to that part yet, no worries. You can just go ahead and watch us for a moment. I think we're all kind of at the same place now at this point. So the next thing to sew, color stop number 67, is the quilting part. I don't really need to watch it. So I'm going to show you on over here on your D-rings. I encounter this a lot when I make bags, and that is that whatever I've got my D-rings on is too thick, and sometimes I can't sew through it. So I have learned that there are ways that you can correct that by not having as much. So the direction said about 1.5 to 2 inches. You have 2 widths of fabric. Even if you have not done anything with your strap yet, you have more than enough. So the strap part is cut 2 inches wide to render a 1/2 inch wide strap. And actually having all that fabric for a strap is not a bad idea. It's just having all that fabric to hold a D-ring. Oh my gosh, I ran out of bobbin thread. Okay, hang on. Now that I've made it this far, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to just stick in, because nobody's going to see this. So I'm going to just stick in regular embroidery bobbin thread. No, there's enough in that one either. Come on. If I were home and I was fussy, I would actually wind another bobbin. But since this is quilting, that's not going to show. Oh, wait a minute. It is going to show, huh? No, I have to wind the bobbin. Hello. It is going to show on the inside, so I can't do that. All right. Oh. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of steam-a-seam and one less wrap of fabric. If you don't have it, then you can just, if you don't have it, then hopefully you made your strap ahead of time. Because you'd have to change out to your sewing machine at this point. But I'm going to go ahead and use this, and I need like 1.5 to 2 inches. it's a 1/2 inch D-ring, so I'll do 2 inches because it's just easier to place it. All right, so instead of folding it like this and like this and like this, and then I've got to fold it like this, I'm going to do a very small edge. I'll end up cutting some of it off, but I'm going to do a very small edge of just pressing it under. So I don't have any raw edges, but I'll have a lot less bulk. All right, so there's one. So I want to end up with a 1/2 inch to begin at the end. And I can do that by taking, let's see, I want a 1/2 inch. And I only need this to barely fold. All right. So I'm just going to fold that in there, and then I'm going to fuse these together. So what I'm ending up with is just 2 folds in the middle, and it's folded on the edges that way. So I'm going to go ahead and steam a seam that. I'll show you before I fold it. So instead of having the full amount of fabric in there, I took half of it out. All right. So now what I'm going to do is just put a little piece of steam a seam there, or you could even do it this way. But I just want to have something that's much lighter because I'm going to have so many wraps of fabric. So right here, I only have 1 fold instead of 4. So I'm just going to take a little piece of steam a seam, and I'm going to, once it's on, it's never going to go anywhere. It's like a 1/2 inch of fabric. Nothing's going to come unraveled, but it's going to make your life so much easier when you do these projects because your machine is going to get stuck over it. All right. And then the last thing, one of the things on D-rings that makes me crazy, and I know if it makes me crazy, it makes you crazy, is you'll be as careful as all get out on making your project. You'll put a D-ring on there, and then the first thing it does when you wear it is turn sideways. It's because there's nothing holding it where the fold is. So make sure I have a 1/2 inch there. Looks good to me. You can either, in the video that I did prior to the class, I showed you how I get in really close to a D-ring with my zipper foot so that it can't move. The idea is to have it so that the D-ring cannot shift. If it has space, it's going to twist because it's a D-ring. It's just what they do. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on there. See there, 1/2 inch, perfect. But now I have like 1/2 of the bulk. So when I go to sew that in, look at that on my embroidery machine, it's not going to jump over that when I try to put it in there with everything else. So on my sewing machine, I would normally come in here and I would run a line of stitching right up against there. But I don't want to do that now because I don't want to have to change out to my sewing machine. So I'm going to do the same thing. You can use fabric glue or you can use steam a seam. I know all of you love your steam a seam. But I'm just going to make it so that when I get that stitched in there, it can't go anywhere. So I can do that now. A little bit of steam a seam. Or fabric glue works as well. I'm not gluing the D-ring. I'm just gluing the fabric together. And then I'm going to just fold it. And then I'm going to press. I'm going to press all the way up to where that ring is there. That's going to create a really tight permanent bond that is not going to permit, no matter how wide my strap is, not going to permit that D-ring to twist. All right, so that's what I'm doing. If you don't have seam a seam, you can use a fabric glue as long as it dries pretty quickly. And let me, plus once you put the seam a seam on it, the 2 pieces can't shift. So there it is. It can't move now. It can't twist. because it's fused all the way up to to where the ring is. All right, so I am gonna, and then these two pieces can't shift apart because they're fused together. So it will remain straight, it will remain flat, and it will not twist on you. All right, I gotta stick my thread back in there and do my quilting. So don't need to have your strap done to finish off today. Do need to have your D-rings done if you want to add the strap later. So today's class was really about eliminating bulk whenever you can. So it's always good to have those lessons when that way you have the information when you need it. Because we've all done those projects, you know, where it's so bulky, our machine stops, we break needles. I know you do, because I hear about the broken needles. So if we go forward in the project with the thought that we need to eliminate the bulk so we don't have that happen, then we've eliminated 50% of the problem. Oh, that was some quick quilting. All right, so let me see where I need to go next. Let's get this on there. All right.
Michelle, do you have any tricks for getting that tape off the seam?
Yeah, I actually press it on first. I hit it with I fuse it. I hit it with the iron.
Oh,
And then if you can't do it with your fingers, you can usually do it with a pin, or it's another thing that your stiletto comes in handy for. So you can just kind of go from the side of it and get one edge up and then just pull. But usually I just steam it. And then you can always just start the edge with you're missing all, no, you're not missing all my stuff because it's all on the recording. All right. All right, let me get that pressed. And then I'll be caught up to you guys because you're more efficient today. It was one of those days yesterday at the store. It just was nonstop. All right, there's that. Where's my other D ring? Here somewhere, no doubt. All right, I know it's here, but I'm going to go back to what I was doing. All right, so we have done our quilting. We are now on color stop. Oh, we're going to go to 172 if you wish to skip the optional strap. We don't. So we actually do need our D rings. Where did that other one go? I hate that when that happens. I'm just going to go out there and grab another kit because I know it's here somewhere. And the minute I do that, I'll find it. All right. So we're going to need our D rings prepared. Let me go grab another one.
But then you're paying like $10. That's true. That is true. We try to recycle Well, Susan, there you get to impress people.
All right, I know it's here somewhere, and the minute I get back here with this, but I just grabbed another one so I can get caught up to you. All righty. Ah, look at it. It's right underneath the handle of the scissors here. I knew that. So it happens all the time that way, doesn't it? All right, let me get my other piece of steam on there. I just love that this just takes most of the bulk right out of that strap connector. I can't tell you how many times when I started doing in the hoop projects that I would just get something like this and it would be so bulky and so thick that my machine would just stop or break a needle or something. It was like I'd make it through the entire project and then the last 5 steps where everything was just too thick, it wouldn't sew. So this was just one of those techniques that kind of got me through it all. And then one more press to fuse all that together.
So do I go up front? Yes. Different stations? Yeah.
So again, always good a way to have point A to point B. If you you can still fold your fabric this way when you're doing the strap part, the sewing part. I would still keep the strap the same. You need the extra stability in the strap. You just don't need it here. So if I were at the sewing machine, I would just sew across this now. But I'm not there, so it's time to actually put them in. All right, so we are at we're on page 19, optional tab placements. So right now, the sewing machine, the embroidery machine is going to sew out 2 placement lines. And so we're going to go ahead and run those placement lines. And you'll notice that the placement lines are going to be above your stitching lines. All right, so I am going to now place this. It shouldn't matter which is the front or the back, but if it does, keep in mind that you're putting it this way, but when it comes up, when you're done, it'll be this way. So if you have one side you prefer over the other, that side needs to be going down. And I'm now just going to align this with the placement line that was there and use a piece of tape to tape it down. And I'm going to use another piece of tape to tape the D-ring down so that it doesn't move either. I want to have a really nice finish on this. I want my straps to be straight. I'm going to take extra care to ensure that that happens. Okay, now look at your D-rings. They should both be at the same place. If they're not, move one up or down because we don't want lopsided ones. They should both be in the same place, or, you know, around the zipper. I'm just going to tape that down a little bit. And then it's going to stitch them down again. It's going to run that stitch again. And I think you're going to notice that your foot's going to glide over that quite easily if you did them that way. So there's no pushing them out of position. Best trick ever. You are on step 70. You know what that means? You are almost done. How about that?
Hey, Michelle, I'm still futzing with my little D-ring, but I'll be right with you.
Okay. That's good. I gotta find page 20. Okay. All right, so
Michelle,
yeah.
did you line the raw edges of the strap of the D-ring right on that sewing line, or did you go above
Yep,
it?
right. Yeah, right on the sewing line. Let me
Okay.
get close because that's actually outside. So there's the mark is up here.
Uh-huh.
The placement mark is up here, and then it's going to tack it down right here.
You got to move the camera a little bit. I just see
Oh,
this.
sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so the placement line was up here.
Uh-huh.
That's where we line it up, and then it stitches it down right here on our stitching line.
Okay.
So make sure the D-rings are to the inside.
Okay. She take the D-rings down.
And the top.
All right, so everybody should be at this point, and I'm not going to go any further till we are, so that we can all finish up together. I mean, it's taken us this long, ladies. We're going to finish together. Okay. What is the most important part of an in the hoop bag? Has to open, right? So we're gonna really pay attention that we get our zipper open when we're supposed to, which is in the next step.
Well, excuse me, let's see, he's on the phone. Are you on the phone? I think he's on the phone. Can I take a message and have him return your call? Hold on. What's the last name? Yep. Got it. Yep. Yeah, well, that's important.
All right, how we doing? All right, I'm gonna take my bag, my hoop off the machine for a minute because we're gonna align the layers. Now, so not too long ago, Kimberbell had a lumbar pillow that if you didn't have an 8x12 hoop, you had to re-hoop several times. And that's where I first encountered this using the thumbtacks to align things. And I'm not saying that it's not an okay way to align things, but look at, you got a piece that's like 4 inches wide. All you have to do is look for the corner and look for the corner. All right. You can use a pin to do that. You can use your stiletto to do that. There is no top or bottom on this. So literally I can stick a pin in the corner and set it down where it needs to go and then just push. And then put a piece of tape there. All the way around. It's a small project. If it were a bigger project, I might say, yeah, let's go ahead and use the thumbtack, method, but this is a small project. We really don't need it to be, to do that. So, we're going to take our piece that we did not trim, our back. And again, it doesn't have an up or down side. If you put it this way, or if you put it this way, it's the same. I'm going to grab a couple pieces of tape. These are small pieces. They don't shift very much in a 5x7 hoop. If you were working in a giant hoop, I might say, yeah, go ahead and use that. But honestly, this works well too. Go ahead and put a pin in the side, in this corner. Just set the pin in the matching corner and push down. And tape. Now I'm going to come over to the other side and make sure that I am in the same area. And I am. And tape. So much easier than, because those notches, if you sewed those notches on when we did this, you'll notice that they are right in the line of the stitching line of where you need to actually sew, which means more bulk, more thread that you have to kind of get through when you go to trim. All right, so we're not putting the lining on yet, but look what I didn't do. I didn't open my zipper. So if you didn't open your zipper like I didn't open my zipper, you need to do that now, or you're not going to have an in the hoop bag. You're going to have an in the hoop project, but you're not going to be able to open it. And since it is small, open it a lot, mainly so that you can get to it. You have to be able to get your hand in there to turn the bag. So from the back, make sure that that zipper isn't going to be in your stitching line. All right, so we are ready for the second to last stitch. And you can see there's no problem going over those D-ring straps. You can also see that my not using the thumbtacks in the corner and just measuring with the pin worked out just fine. All right, so the last step we need to do, look at the back, make sure your zipper's open. If it's not open, you should still be able to put your stiletto in there and move it. I'm gonna cut some of these knots out here. So now we're going to take the lining piece, and that's the piece that has the SF-101 on it. And we're going to put it face down, right sides together. Make sure you have some overlap down here at the bottom and at the top. And then tape that well. So what I like to do is turn the hoop over to the right side because I know I won't push the project out of the hoop, and then I can just really rub my fingers up and down that where that tape is so I know it's sturdy. If I try to do it from the back, I can actually push my project out. Wouldn't want to do that at this point, right? All right, last stitch. You're on stitch 71. Color stop 71. It seemed so daunting before when we first started and we had 1 out of 71 color stops. All right, here we go. All right, you made it. Let's get this little bag turned inside out. That's the best sound ever, right? Finish sewing. All right. So I'm going to get rid of a lot of the stuff that's out of the area here, because what I want to do is get rid of all my tape, and I want to what we call grade my seam allowances a little bit. That's going to help me turn it. And when I turn it, it's going to, it's going to be easier to turn. So I want to try to do that. All the tape out first.
And I try to, when I wash it, inside's just kind of go to one side. So I try to put just, but, my machine is not enough room to do that. That's okay. Okay, is it? Oh, you have a whole bunch of types?
Roughly.
Hello. Oh, in the bathroom, can I go to the bathroom, please?
Fantastic. Hey,
Okay.
have a good weekend.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to just get rid of all the excess, and I'm going to cut at about 1/4 of an inch away from my project. But I don't really want to drag all of this batting around and everything around with me. So just giving myself about 1/4 inch, healthy 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, when I get to the bottom, look at that. I need to leave some room there, because this, if I want to close the bag, this is going to be my fold. So I'm still going to do 1/4 inch up to this point, and then I'll go up a little bit and do this and do that. And with the rest of my stuff up here, as long as I have the part that I can fold on the lining, I can trim this down a little bit. Now, the lining part here, I don't want to trim that, because that's what I got. That's what I have to fuse together to close the bottom of the bag. But the rest of this stuff that's in here can definitely get cut down to make it easier for me to turn. So I still have plenty enough to do to have a seam. All right. On my corners, I want to cut up to, but not through the seam allowances. So sometimes what they show you to do is cut across and then cut down this way and cut down this way. That, to me, when you go to turn a corner like that, you just end up with the nipple effect. You get a point that comes out, but then you get like a blob around it. It just like is not as smooth a transition. So what I like to do is go all the way to the seam line, but not through it, and just cut one corner like that. And the same over here. And the same over here. To, but not through. And then I'm going to take some of the heavier part. I'm going to let the lining work, but that's what has SF101 in it. And I'm going to let the front, I'm going to trim that, grade that seam allowance, because that, when I turn it, is going to push the lining. So I'm just going to take that just a little bit smaller than the lining piece, just a little bit. We're not getting into the danger zone or anything. So if I turn it over, you can see that there's my lining and there's the rest of it. I'm just grading it a little bit. It's just going to make it so that it pushes my lining to the inside, and it makes it easier for me to turn those corners that are quite thick with all of that stitching and the batting and all of my piecing, my pineapple stuff.
Were they difficult? No. I was thinking because they were so big. Yeah. Well, I didn't take them in, I just hemmed them, right? And all that, and all. But you did sew up wherever they were. One side there was a double seam, another one there was a regular seam and all that, and then on the brush and the little seam there. Yeah, right. So anyway, but there are still, it's still gonna be too long. Yeah, evidence of this, because that's what they do, and I use her thread. So, yeah. Use her thread. to try to make it exactly like that, but there's still that evidence that that. Well, like he said, he still wants to be able to roll it up.
And he's still gonna roll it up,
Yeah,
so I
so-
made sure that it's safer and so it was
Now,
no.
this one was a chance, you went
Yeah,
by the other.
I went by the other one. I went by the other one. So, yes.
Yeah. And
All right.
Problem because I saw.
My iron is hot. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this on the fold line just a little bit above it. This is my lining piece because when I turn it inside out, this is the piece that I have to fuse to this piece here because I don't hand stitch bags like this. But if I did it right on the seam line, I'm going to end up with an opening because it's too much bulk. So what I'm going to do is just go above the seam line just a little bit. So I'll have a little bit of extra space there. I'm going to press that flat and then I'm going to press some seam on this, but leave the paper on if I can. And I say if I can because this is so tiny to try to turn inside out that, and we have to do it twice, once to get to the lining and the other side to get the lining to the inside. So I'm just going to give myself a little bit of space here. And then I'm going to put a little seam there.
So, it was all right though. I forgot. Well, I love this quilt, so next time I come.
Yeah, I'll make sure I get you one, and I want to.
I likely won't be able to leave the paper on the whole time as I start squishing it. But I don't usually pull it off. I just leave it there. All right. So the trick to this is to get your fingers, your thumb in the corner and your index fingers on the outside, and you push with your index fingers or middle fingers, whatever, but your thumb is in there. So even to begin with, that first turn is looking pretty sharp. All right. So I'll do it over here. It might be easier to see. So I get my thumb inside and then either my two index fingers and you don't worry about this. Don't worry about pushing it one direction or the other. The only thing you're worried about is pushing that point out. So thumb is down at the bottom here, fingers here, push. So then when I push, I get a nice turn to begin with. I don't have to work at it too much with the seam, with the pointy object to push it out. And keep it warm. Keep the actual thing that you're trying to turn, keep that object warm. So it's easier to turn it when it's warmed up from the iron than if it's cold. So I'm just kind of moving that through. And you'll see that it's actually moving pretty fast given as small as it is because it's warm, it's not cold. When it starts to cool off, I can, hit the edges that are still not out with an iron if I need to. But I think I can. I know I can. Let's just push that baby in there and pull it out. I still have to do the same turn on the other end, but I got to get it out. I got to get it where I can get to it. All right. There's that other point. Same thing. I'm just going to push. Got my thumb in there. I'm going to push it with my fingertips and push it out. Same on the other side. I know it looks like it's all the way turned. It's not really all the way turned, but it's turned enough that I can get my fingers in there now. And you just want to work it to that corner. Sometimes you got to do it from the inside and just push. So you're bracing the back of it with your thumb and you're pushing forward with your other nails. And then if you just wiggle like this, it kind of fills in. I mean, look, we haven't even pressed it yet. We've already got a square. These are all nice and punched out, nice and flat. All right. So now I still have one more thing to do. I have to actually turn this right side out through the zipper, but I might want to actually take this piece of paper. Look at, I even actually have my paper still. And I'm going to push this here and kind of match it up with my steam seam. And I'm just going to press because that's going to seal that bottom. You kind of have to fiddle with it a little bit. All right, all sealed. So now I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to get my thumb in there in the corner. And I'm going to push this to the right side. And same here, I'm going to push this to the right side. Oh, that one might do better after I get the rest of it out. Okay, got that. Gonna warm this up a little bit. See, when it's warm, it's a lot easier. Ah,
Oh, yeah, but they asked, well, I've been,
all right.
Might want to consider that.
All right.
That I know of so far on
All right. Look at that. I love these colors. These are really pretty. I like both combinations actually, but I don't know. I'm kind of partial to the turquoises and the teals. So maybe. All right, we made it. If you made it this far, congrats. If you didn't and you're like, oh my God, I need a break, that's fine too. You made it quite a ways. So the directions for doing the strap, if you didn't already pre-do the strap, those directions are on the previously recorded video that's under the Kimberbell playlist on YouTube for Dealer Digital, because I always record when I'm making the sample, as does Jeannie. So that is on that, because we knew this one was going to be a long one. But I'm pretty happy with mine. How about you? How we doing? Good?
I'm really happy with mine.
Yay, good. So it worked out okay, Carolyn?
Yeah, well, I had a couple, my needle broke and a few things, but
Oh my God.
I'm finished.
Yay, good job.
I'm still working on trimming and to get it ready to turn.
Yeah. So
So do-
anytime you have a project that's like this, you almost have to go back to old school when we did garment construction. And if you wanted if you had a lot of fabric that came together, the idea was to what they call grade the seams, meaning there's a little bit less on one side than on the other side, because it actually forces a turn. And it's not something that they really teach much anymore. And it's not something usually that goes into the embroidery design directions, but it's really helpful, especially on a tiny project like this, that you get those seams. So you get some of the bulk out of that seam. Margaret, it looks like you got yours turned. Yay, good job. All right, thanks, Sandra.
That was a struggle to get that turned.
Yeah,
I almost
Yeah.
thought I was all that work and it wasn't going to happen.
you know what? And that's why the whole, so now you know why I said that, that trim your seams, trim your, get all of the bulk out of there. It's like the word of the day was bulk. But now that you've had to turn that thing, you know why I asked you to do that. And now you have a technique that when you have a project like this that has a lot of stuff that comes together, we want to get all the excess out.
Thank you, Michelle. It was a great class. I will
You're
be
welcome.
I will be trying to turn this thing for the next 2 hours probably.
You
but
won't. Heat it up, Paula. Give it some heat.
heat
So
it. Oh,
this is
right. Okay.
Little trick that I have at my sewing table is
Yeah.
I keep a little portable tiny hair dryer, because sometimes if I can't get to or if I have vinyl in the project and I can't get, to the iron, I want to just get it turned, I can just hit the corner with the blow dryer and warm it up. So,
Oh,
it's
great.
just,
I'll
it's
do
a
that.
tiny one. It's not even maybe 4 inches. It's just one of those tiny travel dryers, but it's just handy, I have a little
Yeah.
tiny vacuum cleaner thing too, because of anytime I work with Minky, it's like, I can't stand the Minky everywhere. So, anyway, have a wonderful day, ladies. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks,
I always
Michelle.
love it when I get to stitch with you guys. So, this will be up on, the Facebook group for Kimberbell Digital Dealer, and also on the YouTube channel. And I will send you a link to both.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thanks all.